Jack Andrews here. Thank you for checking out this episode of my webcast. This one was 5 ways to work smarter, not harder. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and set the notifications so you can be notified next time I go live. Thank you and enjoy. So in the weeks past, we've talked about overcoming the house edge in sports betting and how hard it is, and that the most frustrating part is that even when you have an edge, it takes a long time to get into the long run. If you have an edge at the casino playing blackjack, maybe you're counting cards, for instance, you can expect to be making 70 plus bets an hour. And even if your edge is small, over time, the law of large numbers allows everything to work in your favor, and you reach a point where it's statistically unlikely that you'll lose money. In sports betting, we might make only 4 to 5 bets a day, and getting into the statistical long run is sometimes nearly impossible. So one thing I've always struggled with is the amount of time and effort it takes to place just one bet. I mean, I could comb over every game on the schedule, and it would take forever to find the certain gems that happen, each day. And then when I do that and do my analysis, I could be spending untold hours going over my handicapping technique, as well as maybe watching the game and looking for the right line. If you add it all up, it works out to be, maybe 9 or 10 hours you would spend in just one day trying to be an effective sports bettor. And, quite frankly, this is more than most Americans spend at their day job. And for a lot of you that are watching, sports betting is a side hustle. It's not your sole source of income. So that just doesn't make sense, right? So that's why I think you need this, because something's got to give in that situation. And too often people are choosing the wrong path. Here's something that not many people want to hear is sports betting is really an inefficient use of your time and money. Remember when I said in the first webcast that you need to find balance during this downtime? Well, I firmly believe you need to find balance even when sports return to our daily lives. You need to make betting on sports work for you, and don't let it control your daily routine. I firmly believe that sports betting is a great activity to pursue, and if you have a passion for it, it's a wonderful hobby, and I believe there are many different ways to become a profitable sports bettor. However, it can really be a struggle to not let it control your life. So that's why I wanted to do this topic. I think anyone can find ways to be more efficient in how they approach sports betting. After all, winning at sports betting is all about overcoming inefficiencies in the market by using efficient resources and techniques. So we've all heard the phrase, work smarter, not harder. I had a boss back when I was in my 20s who was very fond of using it. It often came up during annual performance reviews. So I set out to come up with ways to which to apply it to sports betting. Now, I by no means have mastered this. Sports betting takes up a large portion of my time. And this downturn has actually made me realize that, since I haven't been betting. I actually asked a few of my professional betting friends this week for their input, because this is something that I don't think I've mastered yet. So what follows is a quick and effective list that I think anyone can use to improve their approach to sports betting. So let's begin. The first way to work smarter and not harder is to look ahead. Very simple exercise here. Don't wait until the day of game to find angles for what you want to wager on. This is like going Christmas shopping with no idea of who you're buying for or what they want. You'll wander aimlessly around the mall this way. Trust me, I do it every year. You need to have a plan. So having a plan is a big part of taking this seriously, and it's a cornerstone that all successful professional bettors seem to have in common. Making a plan for yourself is an exercise that will give you direction and set goals. This will help you be more focused and driven. Each year, I make a business plan for myself. I discuss what sports I want to bet on, what improvements I need to make up to keep up with the market, and how much revenue I'm looking to derive from it. We can talk about the business of being a professional gambler another time, but I think having a plan is the most key aspect of conducting yourself professionally. Maybe an annual plan is far too big for you. What about a weekly plan? Take some time each Sunday night to look ahead and see what time and energy you can budget to sports betting that week. You'll make more efficient use of your time. Now, looking ahead is also a good way to discover angles. For instance, before the 2018 season, the NBA occasionally had scheduling instances where a team would play 4 games in 5 nights. If their opponent came in slightly rested for that 4th game in 5 nights, then there was a significant advantage for that opponent over this team that's running on fumes. One could go through the NBA schedule far before the NBA season and pick out the spots where teams were going to be at a disadvantage due to scheduling quirks. Now, I'm not saying the market wasn't adapting to this information, but there was often still significant line movement on the day of game for these games. And identifying them ahead of time was advantageous. So in the past, I've used a physical day planner calendar where I take notes of certain dates. They're going to have certain instances where teams are going to be at a disadvantage due to scheduling quirks. This year, actually, I transitioned to using Google Calendar, and I have it send me a reminder the day before these scheduling quirks, so I can kind of pay attention to overnight line movements and day of game line movements, and it's worked out pretty well. If you're not walking through the schedule of the sport that you're interested in weeks or months in advance, you really should do so. In Major League Baseball, you can identify day games after night games where a starting catcher or a star player is likely to be rested. In the NHL, you can identify situations where a backup goalie is more likely to get the start. With the NFL, you should often pay attention to not only the scheduling, but also stat splits for the goalies. The NHL seems to read into the variance of goaltenders more than any other sport I've seen. A goalie home road split gets factored in. The goalie's historical performance against certain teams is factored into whether they decide to give the starting goalie or the backup goalie the nod for that game. And all of this is coming just from looking ahead, right? You notice that you don't need any programming language knowledge. You don't need heavy duty math here. It's all a good example of qualitative analysis. When you're handicapping on qualitative analysis, you're using non-numerical information. You know, there's not any math involved here. We hear a lot about quantitative analysis, but this is a good opportunity to use qualitative analysis, and it's a good example of how it can be used effectively without ever getting deep into the weeds of math or crunching numbers. So that brings us to our next point.